Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world, one book at a time.
Picture this. It's 1971. The world is in chaos, the Vietnam War is in full swing, and on a television set in the Netherlands, two intellectual heavyweights are about to face off. We've got Noam Chomsky and Michel Foucault. And what unfolded was more than just a debate. It was a clash of worldviews that gets right to the heart of how we understand ourselves, power, and justice.
So, what were they really arguing about? Well, it all boiled down to this one, single, massive question. And believe me, this isn't just some dusty philosophical problem. The answer you land on shapes pretty much everything. How we run our societies, what we fight for, and what we think it means to be free.
To really get a handle on their disagreement, you can think of it as a showdown between two totally different ideas about who we are. Let's call it the blueprint versus the construct.
So on one side, you have Chomsky. He argues that human nature is like a biological blueprint. It's innate, it's universal, and we're all born with it. But then you have Foucault, and he says, not so fast. For him, what we call human nature is actually a historical construct, an idea that's been invented and shaped by power structures over centuries.
Now, where is Chomsky coming from with this blueprint idea? It actually comes from his work on language. He looked at kids and thought, how on earth do they learn to speak so perfectly with such messy, limited information? His answer was that there has to be something already built in, a kind of internal wiring that guides us, and that, for him, points to a deep, biological, human nature.
Foucault, on the other hand, is extremely skeptical. He looks at history and says, this idea of human nature isn't a scientific fact we've discovered. It's actually a tool that different eras have used to draw a line in the sand, to decide what counts as knowledge and what doesn't. It's not a truth, it's a function.
Okay, so this might all sound pretty abstract, right? But this is where it gets incredibly practical. Because depending on whether you think we're a blueprint or a construct, your entire understanding of how power works in the world changes completely.
If you're with Chomsky and believe we have this innate drive for creativity, then power looks like the bad guy. It's a top-down force, concentrated in big institutions like the government and corporations, that just wants to crush our natural spirit. So the mission is clear. You have to challenge and dismantle those structures.
But Foucault just throws that whole idea out the window. He says power isn't just at the top, it's everywhere. It's a fine-grained network that runs through our schools, hospitals, even our families. And, this is the key, it doesn't just say no. It's productive. It actively creates our reality, what we think is true, and even who we think we are.
You know, Foucault wants us to see power not as a king telling you what you can't do, but as a system that shapes what you want to do in the first place. It produces knowledge, it creates desires, it builds the world we live in. It's not just a wall, it's a factory.
So, we've got two completely different views on human nature and two completely different views on power. You can probably guess what happens when the conversation turns to justice, right? Yeah, it's a total collision.
For Chomsky, it's pretty clear. If we all share a fundamental human nature, then there must be a real universal idea of justice we can appeal to. It's the moral foundation for any struggle against oppression. We're fighting for something true.
Foucault just flat out rejects that. He argues that our idea of justice isn't some timeless ideal. It's a concept that was invented within a particular class system, and it's used as a weapon in an ongoing battle for power.
So wow, with two views this opposed, the immediate temptation is to ask, okay, who's right? But the real power of this debate isn't about picking a winner. It's about what their disagreement forces us to see. Because once you change your basic assumption about what a human being is, well then everything else, power, justice, social change, snaps into a totally different focus. That's why this debate gives us something way more useful than an answer. It gives us two distinct, powerful lenses to look at the world with.
So, if you put on the Chomsky lens, what do you see? You see the enormous potential that lies inside every person, and you see the oppressive systems that are holding it back. This lens helps you identify the enemy, and it gives you the moral clarity to fight for a better world.
But now, switch to the Foucault lens. Suddenly, power isn't just in the government, it's in the common-sense truths we take for granted. It's in the way we talk about things. This lens pushes us to ask a tougher question. How did our reality get constructed this way in the first place?
And in the end, that's the real gift of this debate. It's not about choosing a side. It's about arming ourselves with a much richer set of questions. Are we fighting to liberate a human nature that's already there? Or are we fighting to change the very systems that decide what human gets to mean? That question alone gives us a much deeper toolkit for understanding what's really at stake. For the full long-form deep dive into this book and its ideas, follow the link in the description. If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.